Welcome on to the next edition of Up. My name is Brad Nadelt, and man alive, have we got a story and a half for you today. One thing I love, if you know anything about me and Comrades, is I just love the stories around this race. And there are so many of them. And I just love how they come out of the woodwork and percolate through. And some stories you've heard, some you haven't. I hadn't heard this one until a couple of days ago. And I was like, we have to get this duo onto the podcast. It is an incredible story that I'm so excited to share with you. There are equal parts of grit, heartbreak, teamwork, and it's all parts of a journey to get a triple green number. And it's an absolute pleasure to welcome on to the podcast today. We've got Liv Schiller and Albert Fayard joining us today. So happy to have you guys on the podcast. And we're going to get into some details in just a moment, but you both are Joburg based. Albert, I'm going to start with you. You've been around Comrades for a number of years. You were going for your 30th Comrades, and I'm going to say again, because we're going to get into it, it was definitely again. And you got your triple green number in 2025. So first of all, congratulations on that. But tell me a little bit about your running background and why Comrades and why so many Comrades. What is it that draws you to this incredible race?
Okay, so it goes back to the 1970s, where I used to listen to Comrades on the radio, and those are the days when Alan Robb started winning Comrades. And I always told my mom, I said, you know, that it's the ultimate challenge. Even in those days, I said, Mom, one day when I grow up, I'm going to run Comrades. And I remember listening to it in the 1981 Comrades. Bruce Boardhouse won. And I told my mom, I said, that's it. 1981, Comrades was on the 31st of May, those days, as we all know. So on the 1st of June, I got into my cupboard, an old cupboard, got out some North Stars that were old North Stars, put them on, and I told my mom, next year I'm running Comrades. And that's where it started. And I did my first Comrades in 82. And I think, as we know, 82 was one of the longest, if not the longest, Comrades. It was 91.4. It was the last time that it actually rained at Comrades, you know, from the beginning in Pietermaritzburg right through to Hillcrest. And that's where it all started, on my first Comrades. And it became a way of life. It determined who I was. It was a lifestyle. And I ran 11 Comrades in a row. Bettered my times. In those 11 years, I ran 2 silver medals. I ran a up and I ran a down. I had a couple of sub-8s, many sub-9s. But in those days, I also suffered a lot from Achilles tendonitis, and which sort of hampered my runs along the way. And in 1992, on the up run, I had bad Achilles tendonitis, and I had a bit of help with a cortisone injection in my ankle just to get me through. And that was in Two Oceans in 1992, which I struggled through. But then I had 6 weeks of good training, and I was confident that I could break 8 hours on that day. But I had a great run, a dream run, and I ran a silver, which was fantastic. And to this date, it was one of my best runs. Anyway, unfortunately, my trouble started at the end of the year. It's quite a funny story. So I was at a New Year's Eve party, and it was about 10 o'clock at night, and I was jumping up and down. I call it the Highland Fling. I was on the dance floor, jumping up and down, and guess what? My Achilles went, snapped, complete rupture. And so that was the start of my so-called struggle. The problem was I had surgery. My leg was in plaster for 6 weeks. I came out of plaster, but then the very next day I slipped and I ruptured the tendon again. So they couldn't do surgery because there was too much scar tissue. So they just put my leg back into plaster for another 6 weeks. So that I lost my calf muscle. I lost all strength in my lower left leg. And to this day, I never really recovered. So I missed Comrades for 2 years, unfortunately, but I just couldn't run. And then my comeback Comrades was in 1995, where I sort of started hobbling. I couldn't run. I couldn't be competitive anymore, but I had to do Comrades. And for the next 24 years, for the next 24 Comrades, I was on the start line. Okay. couldn't run the times I used to run. And as you would know, having a weak leg and a strong leg, you start compensating a lot. And by compensating, that brought on a whole lot of other injuries that plagued me for the rest of my running career. So, and this is where Olivia comes into it. I was very fortunate to meet Olivia in 2012. My wife had a bit of surgery and she needed a bit of physio, so we went to Olivia, and that's where it all started. And Olivia's been our physio, family physio, for the last 12, 13 years. So from way back in 2012, 2013, with all my problems, there's a list of injuries I had, besides arthritis in the knees and osteoarthritis in the ankle and torn calf muscles and piriformis syndromes on your gluteus muscle. I don't know. I can name them all. She knows the medical terms. I had them all. So she treated me regularly over those 12 years. And eventually we get to 2015. In 2015, I was training pretty well. I'm going for my 29th Comrades. But about 3 weeks before the race, I badly strained my calf muscle, my right calf muscle. In fact, I think I slightly tore it. So, to the rescue, I had to go to Olivia again. It was needle treatment, cross friction, you name it, all the treatment. So I basically couldn't run for 3 weeks, but I walked and I cycled, and I thought it's the up run, all that strain on the calf muscle. Anyway, we had a plan. So I would walk all the hills and I would run the flats and the downs. And that's exactly what I did. However, when it came to polys, I was about 3 or 4 minutes over 12 hours. So I really had to get a move on. And I remember with about 2 kilometers to go, I had about 15 minutes. I thought, that's it. I've just got to give this a go. I am not going to spend 12 hours on the road and then miss it and then not get my medal. So I eventually came in with about 40 seconds to spare. 11:59, in fact, it was 11:59, 18 seconds or so. I was gutted. I was finished. But I did my 29th, which was so great. And next year's going to be a formality. Next year's my 30th. I'm still young. I'm only 56. Wow, who knows? I can carry on until, I get my 40th.
Well, let's before we get into the next attempt, let me just bring Liv in here as well. Liv, it sounds like Albert's been keeping your physio practice going for the last couple of years.
100%. One of my best customers.
I always joke that I put my physio's kids through varsity. That's how bad things do get. But tell me a little bit about your background. You've run. This was your 4th Comrades this year as well. You've also done a couple yourself. What is your sort of Comrades journey? How did you get sucked into this cult?
So being a physio, I've always been very active, played a lot of sport when I was younger, never really a runner, but I had Albert as a patient who had told me a lot about the incredible run that Comrades is. And I also had another patient called Sharon, who was a lady who just didn't overdo the training. She just passed it along and she always managed to get through Comrades herself. And she was my next door neighbor. And after I had my 2nd child, she said to me, come on, Livy, this is it. We can do it. And and with the inspiration from Albert and from Sharon, I thought, actually, why not give it a go? I'd grown up in Kloof in Natal, so Comrades had always been on my doorstep. I had watched the race. I'd even worked at the race as a young physio. I'd been at GCT and they asked you to come and work along the route. So I thought, I've watched it. I've worked at it. Now it's time to run it. So, I trained for the one just before COVID. And in some ways, I'm quite glad it didn't happen. I actually don't think I was trained well enough. And I got to do an extra 2 years of training and then ran the first Comrades after COVID. And I have just had the best time at Comrades. I've run 4 in a row and they have been great. All of them, I've been really lucky to be injury-free and to just have a lot of fun along the way. And I would say that this last one that I did with Albert was definitely the most emotional and a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm sure. And we're going to talk a little bit about how that came about. But I mean, I looked at Albert, I looked at your record and yours is interesting. I think I mean, you've got 2 silvers and then you've got a whole bunch of bronzes. I think you've got 19 bronzes, 9 big claphams, but that's not actually the true story, because things have changed with regards to the Comrades medals over the years. So you've got, I mean, you've run times that are equivalent to Bill Rowan's, you've run times that are equivalent to the Robert and Charlie's, which you don't have those medals because those have come in since you ran those races. So your record doesn't tell a full story of your actual ability. But I mean, to run an up and a down silver, you are a proper athlete. I mean, there's no 2 ways about that. You've got to have some ability to be able to do that. And Liv, yours is pretty good too. I mean, yours this year was an hour slower than you've ever been as well. But you've also got Robert and Charlie. You've got a couple of bronzes. As well as the Vic Clapham now this year as well. And so there's a broad spectrum of medals here. And I think that's one thing I love about Comrades is each race is different. I'm sure, Albert, for you could tell a story about each one of those medals and what made it special. Liv, for you now too, you've got stories that you can add to these sorts of things. But tell me a little bit about, Albert, let's jump into the failed attempts, because that was 2015 that you snuck in my sort of territory in the last minute to get your 29th medal. And as you said, it's like, well, I'm going to go back. I've got to get 30, but it's been a slog and a half to get to this point, because if you do the maths, you only got your 30th in 2025. So from 2015 to 2025, there's been a lot of water under the bridge and a lot of failed attempts and a lot of attempts that didn't even get to the start.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's where the story starts. And so in 2015, my son Tristan, ever since he was a child, he always said, "Dad, the day you run your 30th, I'm going to run with you." So at the time, Tristan was 20. He was studying civil engineering at the University of Pretoria, sort of very, very busy. And I can remember him telling me, and well, the whole family, because they used to watch it and they used to track me and all that. So when I eventually made it, of course, they were very happy. And my son thought straight away, he thought, "Oh my goodness,
I'm in.
I'm in. I have to run Comrades next year with Dad, you know?" So, which was great, which was fun. So, comes January the next year, and started training. Another very good friend of mine, Donnie Smith, who was he's a great cyclist and has done the Epic many times. He said he's going to run it with me as well. It's a great occasion. It's your 30th. So I was really grateful for that. Anyway, so yeah, we start training. My son is training amongst his studies. We're doing a couple of races together. The excitement is building up, and everyone's excited that I'm going to do my 30th. And but along the way, 2 oceans that year, running down Chapman's Peak, I tripped on a cat-eye, hit the deck, fractured 2 ribs.
Oh.
Okay. Still 20 Ks to go, but I was up and I thought I better just keep on running because, once the pain settles in, it's going to be a bit of a... Anyway, I had 2 fractured ribs. The training afterwards, I had to take some microdols and some painkillers always to go out on the road to suppress the pain. But I also had a very bad thigh strain that Olivia treated for me. Okay, so I had my injuries, but I was still confident. Comrades Day came. I mean, I even had an article in the Comrades magazine about my 30th. It was a big thing. My son's running with me. What a great story, So the day comes and we get going and we're having a good run. I'm quite confident and I'm going to enjoy the day. But my nutrition was not right on the day. And going back a couple of years, my metabolism changed. And in the 80s and 90s, it was Coke and water at Comrades, and that's what we ate. Maybe a little potato here and a little bit of a banana there or so. But I never ever worried about nutrition. Coke and water did it for me. I did. But I think it was round about in also 2009 that I started getting very nauseous and started vomiting at Comrades and all that. And that sort of plagued me for many, many years. Anyway, getting back to 2016, I got sick, really sick. And before the halfway mark, I couldn't stomach anything. I was bringing up and I couldn't stomach anything. I badly dehydrated. And round about, with about 20 Ks to go, I was finished. I just couldn't. So unfortunately, I had to let my friend Donnie and Tristan, I told them, "Sorry guys, I'm not going to make it today." And my son was very upset. And I said, "I'll try hanging, but you guys go ahead, get your medals, and I'll try to see what happens." but I just couldn't go on. I mean, I couldn't eat, I couldn't drink, I was vomiting, I was bringing up, I was really sick, and I had to bail. Now, I don't know, Brad, I mean, I don't know if you've ever bailed in your races, but bailing Comrades for me is the worst thing. It's the worst feeling. You are absolutely gutted. Getting into that bailing bus, and especially doing your 30th, well, it's like a nightmare. It is just not a nice feeling. Anyway, that was the story. I was shattered. A lot of people were upset. And I remember thinking, you know what, if this happens again, 4 years' time, I'm 60, I'll get my green long before I'm 60 years old. Little did I know. Here comes then the following year. The following year, same story. My son's committed. He's going to run with me. Unfortunately, around about March, after I did a half marathon in Pretoria, I think it was the best med or so, I slightly tore my Achilles again. So yeah, I'm hovering. I'm hovering at least. And so what happened was treatment again, physio, all the things that I can try and do, which sort of kept me going. I remember running 2 oceans with sort of like a club foot, curling my toes up so I wouldn't hurt the Achilles, and anyway, managed 2 oceans. But when Comrades came, going up Fields Hill, the Achilles went. I just couldn't run. I couldn't run. I put an extra instep into the shoe. It didn't help. I had to literally walk all the way to Ulverston, get a lift. Comrades gone again. Anyway, next year, it's definite now. So I had to...
Third time lucky, Albert, on this.
Third time
time's
lucky.
a charm.
Here comes 2018. Here I'm still nursing an Achilles tendon. So I started training again, but I was running very, very slow. Extremely slow. I was just trying to protect the Achilles, especially on the hills and all that. So I did the training, and but I was very, very slow. And also this nutrition thing and my nausea and all that was still a problem that I had. So in 2018, there were 2 reasons. A, I was slow. I went through halfway in about 5:54, which was a bit too slow, especially running at the speed I was running. And I also got pretty sick again. So in Palm Town, here we go again. Third time. Same thing. Devastated, shattered. People are, I don't know what they're saying behind my back. Poor guy, he'll never make it again, or he'll never do this.
I was going to say, Livin, you're treating Albert right through this over the years. I mean, what's going through your mind seeing Albert going back and trying again and just not hitting this thing? This is, I mean, we're still 7 years.
Very hard and very hard to watch, and literally throwing everything at it, trying to give him strengthening to do, trying to balance the amount of training that he's doing, because Albert still was in the mentality of more is better. So Albert was still trying to do high mileage. And I'm going with the new ideas. No, Albert, come on. We don't need all the mileage. We just need to arrive at the start line uninjured. So we had already started chit-chatting about, changing the way that Albert was approaching his Comrades at this stage.
Cool. Well, and then the next one, Albert, you didn't even make it to the start line, 2019.
Well, 2019, what happened was I tore my meniscus in my right knee. I didn't fall. I didn't do anything. I don't know how I tore it.
Degeneration.
Exactly.
and high mileage, apparently.
Yeah. And then March, April, I decided that was it. I think it was the first time in 24 years I wasn't going to start Comrades. Only the 3rd time in 36 years. But I thought, rather I don't start than have another DNF, because that would be really like the last straw. Anyway, I couldn't run. I had surgery. It took me a long time to recover from surgery for that torn meniscus. And then, of course, in 2020, we all started excited for Comrades 2020, but we all know what happened.
The world had different plans,
The world had different plans. And in some funny way, I was a bit relieved. I thought, okay, now there's a legitimate reason why I can't run Comrades, because no one's running Comrades. Right. There is no Comrades. It's cancelled. So that was 2020, 2021, it was the same thing. And then in 2022, Comrades is back. It was in August that year.
August, yeah.
It was in August. We had to train through winter.
Yep.
And I thought, that's it. By hook or by crook, this is the year. You know, we've got time. We're going to train. Went through the whole thing, trained. But in the interim, around about 2021, 2022, I developed quite a severe pain in my back. And after a lot of tests and that, I had 3 fractured vertebrae in my spine. From where? God knows where. But it was diagnosed I had acute osteoporosis of my spine.
Oh, wow.
Which caused a bit of an extra problem for me, but I overcame it, and I've had treatment, ongoing treatment. It's something I'll have for the rest of my life. But in 2022, I wasn't trained properly. I didn't do the right mileage. I went for an overseas holiday about a month or so before Comrades, and you know, you don't really train the way you're supposed to train. And but anyway, I didn't sort out my nutrition once again. Didn't listen to Olivia, you know, stubborn. I was old school.
And you had also turned 60 in the interim over that period with COVID. Yeah, you'd turned 60, so you're a couple of years older. Yep.
You're right. I'm 62. I'm now 7 years older.
Yep.
Anyway, sort of the same pattern happened. I went. I was quite confident. I was running well. I was enjoying it. Halfway came. I was on time, and I thought, you know, this why has it been so hard? This is quite easy. But we know what happens in the second half when suddenly you haven't done the right training. That bear jumps on your back.
Nowhere to hide.
The nausea sets in again. Same old story. And I try to push through. And on the other side of Cowies, it was about 18 Ks to go. And I worked out my time. And at that stage, you know, when you're walking and running and you're barely doing 9-10 minutes a kilometer, I had to run strictly under 7 minutes a K to even think of going under 12 hours. I had to jump in the bus again. And Olivia was running that day. And I remember they would basically, my watch, they would track the numbers, they were tracking us. And I remember being in the bus and thinking, oh dear, geez, I better phone my wife to say I'm actually in the bus, because they're all busy tracking me thinking, hang, I've picked up the pace. In the meantime, I'm in the bus and everyone's getting excited. So I had to phone my wife and say, please, Fayard, I'm in the bus. I've belled again. I'm so sorry about it. So yeah, that was in 2022. And then the next 2 years, I didn't run. In 2023, I didn't run. Over amongst all the injuries and the knee injuries and all that, I developed also plantar fasciitis. Okay. And in round about March, April, it couldn't come right. I couldn't qualify. I thought, that's it. I'm not running this. Okay. By that time, my club mates, my family, friends, I think they just thought, Albert, 29 Comrades is so great. Why don't you just give it up? It just wasn't an option. It wasn't an option. 2024 comes along, and same story. I need to run. I have to go out and do the training. I tried to do too much too soon. I ran a couple of marathons, couldn't qualify. I just couldn't qualify. And I remember doing what was it? It was the Benoni Northerns. And I thought, that's my last try. Let me do it. I had to walk the last 10 Ks. My legs were shot. I couldn't do it and didn't qualify. Another story, gone. 9 years.
And that was 2024. So 9 years, basically. Liv, I'm going to bring you back in here, because you obviously had enough of this story, and you were like, enough is enough. Let's grab this thing by the neck and make it happen. When did you decide, you know what, I'm gutful of hearing this. We need to help Albert finish. Tell me what was going on in your head, and tell me about the conversation when you first decided we're going to make this happen. If you're over 50 and want to recover from sessions faster, run pain and injury-free, and improve your endurance, then be sure to join Lindsay and I for our upcoming Faster Beyond 50 Masterclass. In it, we'll show you how we helped a 70-year-old run a 47-minute, 18-second 10K, and how you can take those exact same principles and apply them in your training. Simply scan the QR code that's on screen right now, or click on the link in the description below to save your seat in the training now. We look forward to seeing you there.
Yeah, I think as a physio, watching Albert year in and year out, and from the outside, and having a physio background, it's quite, you can spot where he's making those errors, and you gently try and explain, Albert, things have changed, and your body's older, and you need to adjust your training, you need to work on your nutrition. Come on, you need to do X and Y. But Albert was still quite stubborn back then and wouldn't listen fully to me at all. So in the October before this year, my running partner, the Sharon I spoke about earlier, had moved to Australia, and I actually didn't really have a running partner. And I thought to myself, right, this is it. I feel if Albert listens properly and also has a friend, someone on the day to hold his hand when times get tough, someone to say, no, come on, keep the pace. We can do this. I'm pretty confident, having seen what he's been through and having run 29 Comrades, I know he can do it. I know it. So I thought, why don't I chat to him and see if he would like a friend, like someone to go the journey with him and see if we can get across the finish line. So I had a chat with him at one of the physio sessions in October. And the first thing Albert said, but why? Why would you help an old guy like me? And I said, because I need to see you finish this race.
Well, if I can come in there. So It was around about October last year. It was one of my treatments that Olivia was doing. And she didn't really ask me. Olivia told me. She told me, she says, Albert, next year, I'm running Comrades with you, and we are going to get your 30th. So for me, it was a bit of a panic. I thought, oh my goodness. Now I'm really going to have to start doing things right. If Olivia is going to give up her time and dedicate 6 months of training, 5 months of training, and give up her chance to run a comfortable sub 10, which she did in the previous down run, okay, and give it up for me, then I've got to contribute a bit here as well. I've got to do this right, like a pro. First time ever, me being old school. So with the absolute guidance and help of Olivia, I got myself a dietitian in January. I got myself a biokineticist, okay? Cool. And now I'm going to do this properly. I had an eating plan from January every single day. I lost weight. I gained strength. I went to bio once a week. I did the runs with Olivia. We did the long runs over the weekend. And our qualifying marathon was the Elands Valley, 1st of March. Now, for me, that's very early because I only really started running properly beginning of January. But anyway, I thought, okay, Elands Valley, it's a downhill race.
In hindsight, as a physio, if you have bad knees, don't do Elands.
You got bad knees, and then also I developed, besides having bad knees, I had I think it was patellar tendonitis.
Yeah.
ANOS, painful. But anyway, I'm gonna run it. It's downhill. It should be okay. Not knowing that the last time I qualified or went under 5 hours in the marathon was quite a couple of years ago. So now this is a big mission. Yeah. Anyway, we start the race. We're doing pretty well.
Doing great.
Halfway mark came, and I knew what I was in for because I was in pain. But with Olivia next to me, and when you run with Olivia, every 10 kilometers, we're going to stop and take a photograph by the marker board with smiles on our faces. So this is a different experience for me. Music the whole way. We run with music the whole way, with all these lovely songs, inspiring songs that just keeps you going, takes your mind off the pain. Fantastic. But last 10 Ks, legs are sore, the knees are sore. And
the pace is dropping
the
steadily.
Pace is dropping, and she's saying, all right, come,
We
it's
need
now
to
run,
move.
walk. And, any excuse to walk when you're in that situation and you sort of hit the wall. But literally, with about 3 or 4 Ks to go, Olivia's behind me, pushing me. We were going to
We were going to qualify that day.
We were going to qualify.
Piggyback, Albert, you were going to qualify.
Wow. And I tell you, it was touch and go. We made it by 14 seconds.
Yep.
We qualified
More than
by 14 seconds. But you know what? If I did not qualify at Elands Valley at the 1st of March, I wouldn't have been able to run 2 oceans. I would have been under pressure to now, what marathon am I going to use? So those 14 seconds were maybe the best 14 seconds of my life.
Yeah.
And
before we get on to the actual date, comrades, let me just ask you. So you obviously mentioned, and with your physio background, you know this, and we talk about this often here at Coach Parry too, especially once you start hitting 50, 55, 60 and beyond, your body's changing. Like your needs change. You need more recovery. Strength becomes a non-negotiable. And we could get away with things in our 20s and 30s. I always joke that you could go out for a bender in your 20s and 30s and go to work the next day and you would feel fine. You'd struggle a little bit, but try and do that now when you're in your 50s and 60s. It's impossible. And that's just a really good indicator of how our bodies need that extra little bit. Albert said, got a dietitian, bio. From a training perspective, what did you change? I mean, I don't know if you had seen Albert's training logs in the build-up to prior. Like, what did you do differently from a training perspective with Albert?
So Albert was still in the older training mechanism of doing all of his runs the same. So he literally was just about doing the mileage. So when I started training for my first Comrades, I got the assistance of a coach, and exactly like Lindsay would say, you've got to do your quality. So it's your shorter quality sessions, doing a little bit of speed, your hills, and then when you run your long runs, you run them slowly, and it's time on the legs. And that's what we changed with Albert. So we decreased the length, the accumulative mileage, and brought it right down, but included that he must do a little bit of speed and a little bit of hills. But knowing his history of injury, we had to be really careful. So those speed sessions, we're not sprinting. They were just, 20 seconds faster, and the hills, we're not going up the steepest hill we can find. We literally are just going a slightly steady hill and just trying to build the strength. The gym work, again, like I love that Albert remembers that it's the accountability. It's knowing that he's agreed to run with someone else. And I think it was that accountability, knowing that he needed to do it for me in some ways. Even though I thought I was doing it for Albert, he was doing it for me. And just being consistent week in and week out. You do your strength work, you do your speed, you do your hills, you do your long run. And that's where I think Albert had, played around a little bit in the years prior. He had the history of being a great runner, but the consistency of week in and week out doing the training, I think, had fallen away a little bit. But for this year, the accountability was there, and every week the training was done, and the total mileage was really reduced, but the quality of the training had improved.
And Brad, but with the help of many of the podcasts that I've seen you and Lindsay do, the run slow to run fast, worked. My weekday runs by myself were pretty slow, way over 7 minutes a kilometer. When I ran with Olivia on the weekends, or the other races or the long runs that we did, we were running 6.5 minutes a K or closer to 6 minutes a K, and I could handle it. I was so surprised about that. And then also what Olivia, did for me as well was the run walk strategy. That really helped. And I never used to do that. I never ever used to do that.
It's amazing, Albert, and that was the point I wanted to make, and especially for someone like you who comes from a background where you are a bloody good runner, like you've run silvers at Comrades, you are legit. And the problem that we see, and I'm sure you fell into it too, is as we get older, we kind of think we still need to train that way, like what worked for us when we were in our 20s and 30s, and it's more and harder, but our bodies just don't respond to it. And it's a mindset thing almost more than anything. And for a lot of people, I think you feel like you're giving up when you decide to back off a little bit. But it is amazing what happens when all of a sudden you're running your easy runs easy enough. When you're doing strength training and maybe not doing tons of mileage, all of a sudden you feel better. Like you're not as tired all the time. You're not running in pain all the time. It is just amazing when it starts falling into place. And that's when, like, it's a huge mind shift change to get to that point. But when people really buy into it and they start seeing those results, then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, where's this been my whole life? Like, it is just,
and the
it's
injuries just disappear.
Yeah. Exactly. And you said it there too, Liv. You said it twice. You said it earlier on. The goal was to get Albert to race day injury free. And I think so many, particularly Comrades runners, are fixated on mileage numbers, that we have to get to this number by Comrades, otherwise we're not ready. But in doing that, they're pushing themselves too hard and they pick up a niggle and they just really struggle. They never actually get that consistency. It's more important to bank 40K weeks from the 1st of January to Comrades race day than have 1 week where you're doing 90Ks and then the next week you can't run because you saw, and then you do 1 week of 80Ks and then you can't run because you saw. You are much better served. Little bits over a long period of time. And yeah, it looks like that's exactly what's happened for you, Albert, this time around. And let's talk about Comrades race day, because it is hard running it on your own. Never mind having to worry about someone else. So, Liv, I'm going to ask you about this because I've run a Comrades with a friend who was also very undercooked, and I know, like, just emotionally how hard it is to feel that responsibility that you're helping this person get their medal. Tell me a little bit about your race day, and Albert, I'll get your thoughts on it in a moment. How did things pan out? Because your time was phenomenal. I mean, for qualifying with 14 seconds to spare, geez, you guys smashed it on race day. 11:30 odd, I think, or 11:28 was your finish time. That's amazing.
Yeah, so I think I had gotten myself quite confident that we were definitely getting Comrades number 30. So in the lead up, I had felt great. But the night before Comrades, the nightmares kicked in. And I thought, what happens if we can't do this? Or what happens if I get sick? Or what happens if, suddenly a muscle in my body goes? What am I going to do? So arriving at Comrades morning, I have no idea. It was the most emotional start I've ever had. I started crying from the minute I walked into the pen. I cried the national anthem. I cried it all. And I think it was just this, I don't know, like the weight of responsibility that I actually hadn't really thought about. I suddenly started to realize on the morning, as we stood at the start line, I myself thought that Albert was fully on board at this stage, that today was the day. In hindsight, he tells me that he didn't think we could do it.
I didn't think I could do it. Look, I mean, from the word go, I knew I had a much better chance because Olivia was running with me. And we did long runs. We did the Pirates long run. We did 2 oceans. We finished quite comfortably. And her by my side, the run-walk strategy worked. She would walk and I would want to run. I'd say, no, let's rather walk now. The hills, we would only walk maybe 100 meters or so, but then break into a trot again.
I had worked out a pacing strategy for us. After we did our last long run, the Pirates Big Daddy, I realized that 12 hours actually was going to be too slow for us. So I actually paced us for 11:20 because I thought there's no point in us trying to run even slower than we need to. So I paced us for 11:20, and I just kept that watch, kept checking, making sure that Albert was there, checking that he looked okay. My biggest worry is that I was going to, give poor Albert a heart attack along the way. And it was a fantastic day.
No, look, I was very confident going into it, and we had a fantastic first half. I remember going to with 42Ks, and I told Olivia, I said, do you realize we just run a marathon? And it seems like it's been so easy, and we stuck to the plan. It's like Barry Holland always says, plan your race and race your plan. It's exactly what we did. The nutrition and eating something every 30 minutes and drinking enough and all that. So up until about, I'd say 50, 60 Ks, spot on. But you know what happens in the second half? It's Comrades. It's a long day. So the last 30 or so Ks, you start taking a bit of strain. You haven't really your appetite and all that. You're getting quite sick and tired of the gels and things like that. But Olivia would run ahead and get my water or get me something to eat, give it to me. Okay, make sure that I had something. The music was still going. Whenever we walked, she would break out into a run and say, let's go again. She's monitoring the pace.
I also started to notice in the second half, I do think that Albert's like old worries would start to creep in. He would say to me, oh, this is where I had to pull out that 1 year and get in the Baylor bus. And I think it's, your psychological state at that point. And I definitely think that that's where my role to say, oh no, well, we're not doing that today. And just kind of distract. And Albert would say, oh, I'm starting to feel a bit nauseous. That was another thing. Albert was also quite old-fashioned in that he never carried a medical kit with him when he ran Comrades. So onto Oceans, he get cramps. And I said, well, what have you got for cramping? Nothing. What have you got for nausea? Nothing. So over time, Albert now has his own medical kit of little things that can help. So again, when he started to say on Comrades Day, I'm nauseous, I don't think I can eat, I gave him an anti-nauseal tablet. He swallowed that down. A few minutes later, I said, right, start eating again. Just little bit. Because I think if you don't have anyone there, you start to obsess on, oh, I'm feeling nauseous. I think I'm going to vomit. But if you can kind of, push those demons in your head behind you and say, no, today is not that day. Today I'm going to carry on. I'm going to finish. I think that also was part of my role is just to keep those little demons behind and say, no, we're not listening to that today. We're going to keep going.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up, Liv, because I said it this year with my comrades this year is I hadn't run for 12 years, and I was amazed at how much experience plays in this. And you've also run 4 now. I've run 4, and it's just weird how, as you said, there's parts on the race as you're going through the route where you remember something from a previous year, and a lot of times it's positive memories. Like you think about, oh, I remember I saw so and so here, or I felt really good here. But when you've had a number of failed attempts, like you've had, Albert, it is really easy to get in your own head. And then that sort of perpetuates. Instead of the positive mindset, you go into the negative mindset. And I wanted to ask you that, Albert, is how did you manage that? Because it's hard coming back from one, but knowing that all your loved ones were there again, waiting for another attempt. Is this going to happen? How did you manage that mental side of things to stay positive and believe that you can do it?
Yeah, look, as I said, I knew I was prepared. I had done everything right. I felt great on the day. But psychologically, I just couldn't, because I had been disappointed so long. And the last time I ran under that finish banner at Comrades was in 2015, 10 years ago. I just couldn't see it psychologically. I just thought it's a dream. It's a dream that I can never achieve. And that was my biggest problem. And I remember running well into the second half when we knew we had so much time. And I would always ask Olivia, do you think we're going to make it?
And the funny thing is, Brad, I thought Albert was joking the whole time. Because according to the watch, we were totally on time. And then he'll be, Liv, do you think we can do it? I was like, of course we can do it.
Yeah.
But I thought about what Olivia is doing for me and the time she's given up for me. My club mates, my club sponsored me because they wanted the first guy in the club to do 30 Comrades. And my family and everyone, I was also running for charity. And there were so many people that were listening to our story and tracking us. There was no ways I was going to bell. I was going to crawl. I was going to overcome it. But I still just couldn't see that finish side. But
there was a moment where how many Ks do we have to go?
So with about this is way after Sherwood, we had about 3 Ks to go, and we just hit 11 hours. So now we got a whole hour.
For the last 3.
And then that's when I realized, I actually think we can make it today. And jokingly, I asked Olivia. I said, Olivia, do you think we're going to make it?
I literally was like, Albert, we are going to make it.
Yeah. So I knew we were going to make it, and I actually felt great. And, and suddenly the last 2, and running past Kingsmead Stadium, I told Olivia, I said, yes, if this was the old original finish,
it was 11:15
close to 11 hours. This has been easy. We would have done 11:10 or something like that, So, and yes, coming to the end, I saw my family on the side of the road and went to them, and they were shouting, and it was pretty dark by then. It wasn't pitch dark because there was still half an hour to go, which I was quite pleased about, although the street lights were on. And then suddenly I saw that it was about 11:28 or something like that. And suddenly I told Olivia, I said, "Oh, we can break 11:30. Come, let's go." So and it was unbelievable. And I thought, I think for 10 years, there wasn't a day that didn't go by that I didn't think about Comrades and my 30th. And when I used to think about it myself, I used to get emotional. And I just used to think, if ever I am fortunate enough to go under that banner on my 30th, I'll be so emotional, I'll break down in tears. But you know what? The noise, the event, the enormity of the situation, that what has just happened, I wasn't emotional. It was as if I was stunned. I'd finished Comrades.
Don't worry, I made up for him, though.
I've achieved my 30th.
I'm sure.
Hey, look, it was something that, wow, it's like winning the lotto. It was like, wow, I've actually done it. Of 10 years of the struggle. And Olivia was quite emotional, and we've got some photographs and all that. Hang on, I was, but and
it was wonderful to see Albert's family, and that this journey had finally happened. He had made his 30th.
I think a lot of people were relieved, and a lot of people were very happy. And it only a couple of days later did it really sink in.
Okay, yeah.
And that's when, in my own quiet moment, I actually got quite emotional and thinking, these are lessons in life.
Yeah.
And it's something. It's quite appropriate that next year's slogan, Skafile Moya, never give up.
Yep.
And that's a lesson to any runner over there. No matter what, regret. For me, regret isn't failing or bailing. Regret is not trying.
Yep.
That's what you regret with years to go. Is not trying. So and I must honestly say that I don't think we would be doing this podcast if it wasn't for Olivia. She's the kindest, most generous person that I've ever come across in my life. And I'm just so fortunate, and I'm so grateful that I know Olivia. And if it wasn't for her, in all likelihood, I don't know if I'd be sitting here now. Because, once you start taking a bit of strain, and the excuse to walk and to walk more and to walk more and to walk more, I think that would have happened. And maybe I would have scraped through by another 40 seconds. Maybe I wouldn't have. But Olivia is the one who got me through. The kindest, most generous, most inspirational person I've ever had the fortunate for her to come into my life. So, words cannot describe how I feel about what she gave up and what she did for me.
No, it's incredible. I just love, like I said at the start of this, I love Comrades stories, and this story for me just encapsulates what Comrades is about. That it's just this. It is. If you've never run Comrades, it's hard to describe to somebody how flipping hard it is to run Comrades, and the highs and the lows, and the lows that you've had over the last decade, Albert, to keep getting up and coming back and fighting this fight again. And I'm going to ask this question. You seem quite excited about next year's slogan. I take that as that you're running your 31st next year. Is that the plan?
Well, Brad, I did promise my wife and my family that this sort of would be my last. They've had to sacrifice a lot over the years. They've also had to face the disappointment.
I sense there's a but coming, Albert.
I did promise Philly and my wife that there's a lot of things we do besides running as well, and we do a lot of hikes and caminos and things like that, which is great. And I did promise her that I would not run next year.
Okay.
However,
but
I definitely will be there in 27.
For the 100th.
I will definitely, not for anything in the world, miss the 100th Comrades.
Yeah.
I am motivating a lot of my old mates. We haven't run Comrades in years.
Come back time.
My son and his mates, I'm putting together a lot of guys to form a big bus, and we're all going to celebrate the 100th Comrades, because if we are capable, and anyone who can run, or anyone has been associated with Comrades, or anyone has run in the past, 2027 is a compulsory event.
Be there or be square.
We will definitely be there. So no, Brad, to answer you, it definitely, I think,
At least one more.
it wasn't my last.
Yeah, you can't. That green number, the triple green number, is very well traveled, having done that journey back and forward every year, waiting for you at the finish. So it can't just sit on your mantelpiece now. You actually have to run in it. There you go. That is beautiful. That is a thing of beauty. I love it.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, look, it's you know, even there isn't, as even now, and I think about it every single day, and I look at the number and I think, wow, it's a great story. It was a great journey, and it was an absolute privilege to do it with someone like Olivia.
But from my side, like Albert always says, like he appreciates me so much, but it was an absolute honor to run with such a legend and be able to achieve his triple green number. It will stand out as one of, oh, I am going to cry. It will stand out as one of my best comrades and my best memories.
Yeah. Liv, I mean, it's amazing. The story is just, I think a lot of people are going to love this story, but I'm going to ask you this. You've obviously helped Albert get his triple green now. Is a green number on your list of things you want? Have you still got?
I think I can quite confidently say no.
It's a slippery slope, because you went past 2, which was your first mistake. You should never have run the 3rd, because now you're halfway to 10. Doesn't matter where you are in that between 2 and 10. You
almost there.
That's what I've always told Olivia. Is once you've done your 5th Comrades, it's a formality. You cannot stop. It's a formality for you to go on and run your 10th.
Albert,
and Olivia is still young.
I think it's the 3rd.
She is extremely strong. Yep. She is capable, and she knows it. She is capable of running a bull Rowan, okay? But when Olivia runs these races, the amount of fun that she has, she's so enthusiastic and so positive, and the fun and the photographs and the music, and that is what it's all about for Olivia, which is fantastic. But you know, if
I'll say 10. I think I'll make it to 10.
Yeah, I think so. And if Olivia's going to do her 10th, I can't promise that I'll be around to run.
I better do them in quick succession.
But I will definitely be there that day to second her and to support
amazing.
her. That's the least I can do.
Absolutely amazing. Yeah, I love the story, and I think our audience is going to really love it. Thank you so much for the inspiration. I'm fired up. I can't wait for another one. And just well done to both of you. I know how much it took for you, Olivia, to help Albert, but Albert, the resolve and the grit to keep coming back and just never saying never. Yeah, congratulations to both of you. What a story. Cheers to you both.
So much.
Thank you, Brad.
Thanks for the opportunity, Brad.
Yeah.
All the best. Thank you. Appreciate it.